Hello, Hallmarkies and Postables, and welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We are so excited today to be talking about the next episode in Deliver Me a Podcast, where we discuss episode 8 of Signed, Sealed, Delivered, Dark of Night. I am Jess, and I am your host today, and with me I have Kaycee.
Hello, everybody.
And we also have Cammie.
Hello.
And if you're tuning in, jump on over to YouTube because we have a very special guest today. Welcome to the podcast, Layne Edwards.
Hi, everybody. Thanks.
And so before we begin our discussion of the episode, we want to throw out a brief disclaimer about the content of this episode. This is Hallmark Channel. A series, but the episode does contain more serious content. It does discuss sexual assault and rape of one of the characters. So we just want to throw that out there for any listeners or anyone who might want to show this to their children or anything later on. All right. So to start us off, Layne, from what I can tell, this was your first role with Hallmark, was doing this episode. Is that correct?
I think it was, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this show has been a catalyst for a lot of Hallmark actors. It was the first for Kevin McGarry, and now it's the first for Layne. Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, I was really grateful for this one. Martha, I think, took a risk in hiring me, and she gave us a lot of freedom and a lot of safety to be able to play with, like you said, this kind of difficult subject matter. But the most important thing to her was that we told the truth about it. So it was a good opportunity for a first role with Hallmark.
Well, you did a heck of a job.
Oh, thanks.
Definitely. So I was curious, kind of knowing maybe at the time what you knew about Hallmark Channel and the type of movies and episodes and things like that they produce, were you surprised about the content of this episode, seeing it was definitely a more serious, a little bit of a darker, content? Was that surprising to you at all?
Sure. Yeah, it was definitely surprising. And we had a lot of conversations about it because we knew even at the time that we were sort of pushing the boundaries around what Hallmark viewers were used to seeing and what Hallmark, what the network was used to putting out. And we knew that it was a risky episode. But Scott Smith and I had a lot of conversations off the beginning. And one of the themes that kept coming up was that this wasn't an episode about a sexual assault and a rape. This was really an episode about forgiveness and peace. And so while we were shooting it, we really tried to keep that in mind, that the story that we were telling was about Michael's journey back to himself through forgiveness and grace and peace. And as long as we kept sort of that in mind, and as long as that was our focus, we really kind of felt like the rest was up to the incredible writing that Martha Williamson put together. And if we could just tell the truth about it, that was what would come through. And I think that's kind of, we hope that that's what connected with viewers. Because it was risky. It pushed a lot of boundaries.
Yeah, most definitely. And I believe you played it very fantastically. I mean, especially in such a short episode, 45 minutes, that's a lot. It's not a lot of time to see somebody's growth and to see someone's forgiveness from, anger and then rage and then forgiveness at the end. And I don't know, it was a very touching episode and I felt it was done very beautifully.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay. I've kind of developed a little habit of saying I blame time, because in these short episodes, these stories are incredible, but we don't get to explore all the facets of the stories like we do in the movies. But this is one episode where I felt that everything was covered, everything was explained, everything was felt, and I had no reason to say I blame time.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, I think you can, again, I think you can really credit Martha Williamson and Scott Smith for a lot of that. Martha with her writing, the way that she wrote my relationship with my daughter was really a big part of his growth and his redemption. You get a sense in the time jump that even though he knows that his daughter isn't his, he's still spent her life raising her as if she is.
Right.
And that
Exactly.
spoke a lot to his character, and a lot, not so much to his growth necessarily, but just to the kind of man that he was. And that kind of allows you to jump past and to be on his side pretty quickly, I think. But I think that's a credit to Martha. And I also, I think the hair and makeup and wardrobe for just the time jumps. I mean, I went from in my early 20s or mid 20s to my almost 50s in that show, over the course of that show.
Right.
And they did a
You did.
fantastic job. Those beards were legit. And not mine, believe it or not.
I
Those
was
were
just
my
going to
beards.
ask that. Was the beard yours?
Spoiler alert. No, it's much easier it's pretty hard to grow and shave a beard over the course of a shoot. So
Yeah.
those were all put on, and they did a fantastic job. So I think that really sort of helped as well. But and then again, Scott and the environment that he provided, which allowed us to take a lot of risks and really honor that writing. He really allowed for a safe space to be able to take some of the risks that we took. And I think that helped in telling the story. There was definitely a risk that you don't do that story justice and people end up disappointed. And I think we tried to tell the truth as much as we could.
Yeah, I definitely think it was a risk that paid off. I think those themes definitely came through very clearly to viewers.
Well, and it's
And
clear,
with that,
delicate, and I just it was handled so delicately, but there was all the truth told. It was beautiful. It was brilliant writing, and then brilliantly acted. So
No, but it was brilliant writing. And here's something that you should know. This is a bit of an actor's secret. We always say bad writing is really hard to learn, and good writing just kind of comes off of your it just comes out immediately. And I mean, even in the audition, the scene, I don't know where we are sort of in the episode, but there were some pretty big scenes with some pretty long, heavy monologues, and they just came right off. They were so beautifully written. And again, I mean, it makes a huge difference. I hate to keep bringing it up over and over again about how Martha Williamson's writing, but from the get-go, working with her, it really resonates with me. And I think I think I come from a lot of the same background as a lot of our audience, and I think that's why it resonates. She writes this material with just such beauty, and she's able to find intimacy without crossing boundaries, and she's able to find drama without crossing boundaries, and she's able to tell the truth about that stuff without crossing boundaries, and that's hard to do. It's really hard to do, and she's really, really good at it.
Well, we gush about her all the time in her writing, so you're not alone.
Yeah. She's sitting somewhere right now going, "I'm not hiring you again. Stop it."
we
come
need
on,
a
not
movie prize
another-
of Kimsicle.
I was about to say, we don't get another movie with Lester.
Hey, I wasn't going to bring that up, but since you brought it up, feel free to keep bringing it up.
Well, you got our vote. All right. So on that note, let's jump into the episode.
Sure.
So we start off in a hospital. We see a candy striper rushing around. She's clearly trying to get somewhere, and she ends up in a woman's room who is dying, as we find out. And little Hallmark trivia, that woman is played by the lovely Kimberly Sustad, which you'll recognize from many other Hallmark productions. And this woman, whose name is Melissa, writes a note and gives it to the candy striper saying it must go out. It needs to get out and sent. And then she ends up coding and dying in the hospital. And then we see the candy striper put the letter in a book that's in a little like traveling library thing. And she turns away to go help a patient, and another patient just creeps in there and grabs that book that has the letter, and that is how our letter becomes lost for the Dead Letter Office. So did anyone have any initial impressions with this scene? We get thrown into a pretty intense scene and a lot thrown on us in just those first few minutes before the opening like theme song. Did anyone have any initial impressions or thoughts?
I think that this is the most dramatic beginning since To Whom It May Concern. Usually it kind of starts out a little bit slow or thoughtful or something like that, but this is someone running, and obviously in a very big, urgent hurry. And I think that it's the most dramatic beginning since To Whom It May Concern.
Yeah.
And
It hooked me in right away.
We know right off the bat the stakes are going to be high in this episode.
Yeah.
This is almost like, it's almost like Martha saying, on the bottom of the screen, it could say, strap yourselves in. That could be the subtitle,
Brace yourselves for the flight.
Brace yourself.
It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah.
That's a great way of putting it, because I was not expecting the storyline going in at all. So brace yourselves.
If I can say something about that scene, that Candy Striper is a wonderful actress named Nicole Munoz, who's a local Vancouver actress. And she, over the course of the day, Kimberly and I are very good friends. We're close pals. And we've been hanging out the whole time. And we have a shorthand, and we have a sense of humor that's maybe different than other people. And Nicole, I think we were, in our late 30s, mid 30s, and Nicole was, I think, like 19 or 20 years old, and she came up to us at one point. We were kind of hanging out at Crafty, and she kind of poked her head over, and she goes, "Hey, you guys mind if I hang out with you?" We're like, of course. She's like, "Good. I think you guys are the coolest people here." And we're like, "Oh my God!" Really, yeah, you can hang out with us every day, all day. You're good.
We're the cool kids.
She was so sweet, and she's a really talented actress and dancer. Yeah, so it was pretty fun to work with her that day.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah, she is absolutely adorable.
It sounds like something I would have done if I had been a small part at 19.
Yeah. I'm sure if you asked her about it now, she'd go, "I don't remember that. I never said that." But she did.
All right, so we jump to our postables and we see Shane and Becky, and Becky lets it slip, or deliberately tells Shane that Oliver heard the entire conversation that Shane and Becky had about him. And so Shane is mortified because she was gushing about Oliver and all of those other things. And then, of course, he walks in, and she does not know how to react. And she's like, "Transfer me, Becky. Let me come with you."
It's kind
Take
of
me
like
back
that
to Washington
moment.
with you, please.
It's kind of like that moment in Friends when they're like, "They know that I know that they know that you know."
Yes, that's exactly what I thought about when she was saying that in that part. Yeah, so Oliver comes in with their new assignment, and it's a 10-year-old letter that was found in a Bible, and it's got doodles all over the front of the letter, so the information is obscured. And they found this letter in the possession of a patient at a mental health facility, hence all the doodles. And the letter is found in the page of the Bible, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Oliver is able to pick out that verse from the page, and we find that is a theme that we see in this episode.
That's a pretty good example of some incredible Martha Williamson writing right there.
We talk often about her weaving, about just the way she weaves and intertwines everything, and just how everything flows together in just this amazing and one-of-a-kind way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so we begin to hear the letter story, and it's a letter from Melissa to her husband, Michael. And it begins with a bit of a flashback of Michael seeing his wife with another man in front of a hotel. And turns out that man is her ex-boyfriend and also his best friend. So there's some interesting dynamics there. And he just immediately assumes that there's something untoward happening, that something must have been going on between the two of them. And then we jump to Melissa in the hospital and him finding out that his wife and daughter were in a car accident, and he learns that he cannot give blood because he's not a match, because he is not the biological father of Abby, his daughter. And so immediately we have the beginnings of this story and the heartbreak of it.
It just river rafting accident.
Yeah, it was a river rafting.
Oh, river rafting. Sorry,
Yeah,
not car accident. Thank you.
Big part of that story is that in front of the hotel, I'm supposed to be on that river rafting trip with them, and I tell them, no, I think you should go by yourselves because I think you should go by yourselves. I need a break. I need some time away from you, and you guys need to go and have some mother-daughter time. So you guys go. So there's a certain amount of culpability that ends up kind of coming through. I have to deal with the guilt of not being there with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of Michael's story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. And then he accuses her of having the affair with the best friend, right? In that moment.
In that moment.
Right.
Pretty close.
Yeah, he jumps to that conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that it was the ex-boyfriends, because then the letter goes on to tell the harrowing story that he's not the father, not because it was the ex-boyfriends, but because Melissa was raped the night before their wedding when she went out to celebrate her friends. And there's a line in that letter that literally just hits me so hard. And it's when she says, "I don't remember everything, Michael, but I know he said he was gonna kill me, except he didn't. But that night, I wanted to die just the same." And those words are just so powerful because they're poetic in a tragic sort of way. And those few sentences, Martha allows us to feel those emotions. We don't see any of the attack. This is Hallmark. We don't see anything. We don't even hear the word rape in the episode. Yet we so clearly and deeply feel Melissa's pain. It's almost as if we were there. We can feel it so well. And so, yeah.
Well,
what are your
and
guys' thoughts on that?
in the scene, that letter is in the scene that I'm by her grave, which will, I think, come up a little later, when I actually have the opportunity to read the letter and I'm at her grave for the first time in however long. Those words are written on the piece of paper that I'm reading. That letter was handwritten by the props department. So being able to connect to those words in that scene was everything. I mean, it was it was easy to emotionally be there because I had that writing and those words right in front of me.
You didn't have to fake it.
Didn't have to fake a thing. No, that was again, like that letter and the way that she's able to bring you there into that place was beautiful. Yeah.
Well, and it's amazing how much Michael is dealing with. I mean, first he doesn't go on the trip.
Yeah.
And then he is still a little miffed because he saw his wife with his best friend when things are good and her ex-boyfriend when things are going wrong. And so and then on top of that, he finds out that Abby isn't his daughter, and then his wife dies and he has to live with the fact that he was angry with her when she died, and he is left to raise the daughter that isn't biologically his but is his. Oh gosh, I'm gonna cry because she said you will always be her daddy.
Yeah.
And he did go on with that, which we know is absolutely incredible of the character. So, but it struck me how much Michael is dealing with.
Tons, but he's also dealing. The thing that he's dealing with, the thing that he's dealing with the most, or maybe in order for him to be able to deal with that, he has to walk away from Melissa. He doesn't visit her. He doesn't visit her once at her grave. He doesn't have anything to do with her for 12 years. He doesn't want anything to do with her memory or anything. He just wants to raise his daughter.
I was curious about that because it doesn't say that in the episode, and so that's very interesting backstory.
That time that he goes to her grave is the first time he's been to her grave in 12 years.
Wow. Oh my word!
Wow.
Yeah. So he's dealing with this constant cloud of bitterness as well. And in spite of all of that, he's, become a district attorney. He's raising his daughter well. They're best friends. I mean, we decided that she was his best friend. And because we just felt like that was really important to his character, to the kind of person that he is.
Absolutely.
He can't just be a grumpy, sad, mad man. That's not interesting. He needs to be grumpy and sad and mad and capable of being a great father. That's real. That's the truth. Those are all the different sides of a person. Mm-hmm. And it's so easy to look at a person and just see that one thing and assume you're just a great dad. You must not be depressed. You must not be, sad and angry. And then something horrible happens. And we go, God, I never knew. Well, I think a lot of the time that's because we don't see all the different sides that make up a human being and a person. And for him, I think it was really important to me and Scott and to tell the truth about all the parts of Michael.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
Gosh, I'm getting emotional.
Oh.
That's okay.
That's what this episode is about. Is emotions. And so in the letter, we also learned two other important pieces of information. One is that she didn't tell anybody. She didn't report her crime because her attacker ended up in prison from a different attack from another woman. And that the daughter had some kidney damage. She lost one of her kidneys. And so we learned a little bit of her medical story there. So there are two other important things that we learn.
Yeah.
And the Postables very quickly track down Michael, who's running for office. They send the letter off to his office, and they're left feeling desolate and sad, as we are. And then we see Shane and a little bit of levity from the heaviness of this episode, because she cannot let this rest. She needs closure. She needs to see the ending. And so she goes to the office and just tries to covertly make up some investigative reason that she needs to be there. Official post office business, and is spying on Michael. And so, yeah.
I mean, even she goes as far as to stand right outside the door and try to be a sleuth and is listening and leading, and it just, oh my word. Oh,
and
Kristen,
I love her line
Kristen
at
was
the
great
end.
there.
And then at the end, she's just like, oh, wrong zip code. And then bolts to follow Michael.
Well, in that moment, I was kind of like, what are you trying to find out, Shane? Like, are you planning it so that it's his lunch break? You're kind of guessing. So that was kind of a fun moment for sure.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. They are the good folks over at Sundance Now. And this is a really exciting streaming service. We're all looking for more and more content these days, different things we can stream. And in a prepackaged world when it comes to TV, we're spoon-fed reality junk, competitive dating shows, and singers behind masks. And we need stories. We need things that are a little bit more thoughtful, that are a little bit deeper, that challenge us a little bit more. And don't you want something that's good for your TV soul? This is a great time to check out Sundance Now. Sundance Now is an ad-free streaming service created by AMC Networks for people who appreciate thought-provoking storytelling and fresh perspectives. If meaningful shows are your escape, then Sundance Now is the destination. Sundance Now offers the best of true crime series, dramas, and thrillers from all over the world. Their original series, McMafia, State of the Union, and The Cry have received international praise and awards. You can stream Sundance Now on all your favorite devices. Just download the app or watch online and discover exclusive shows from around the world instantly. And one thing that the Hallmarkies crowd will really enjoy is they have an entire section that is all for romances, which we really enjoy, including a latest version of Wuthering Heights. And if you love your period pieces like I do, then you can really enjoy that. There's also all kinds of documentaries. There's all kinds of series. So there's a lot of really wonderful films and shows that you can watch on Sundance Now. Sundance Now is available as low as $4.99 a month. That's an unbeatable price for award-winning content. And so start your next streaming obsession now. Try Sundance Now free for 30 days by going to sundancenow.com. Use promo code Hallmarkies. That's sundancenow.com, code Hallmarkies for 30 days of free streaming. Sundancenow.com, code Hallmarkies.
Oh,
She's a lot of fun on set too. That day, those days with them are a lot of fun.
Tell us.
They're really fun people. Well, I mean, they all have great chemistry together.
Yeah.
But they're also, they're not the kinds of lead actors that a lot of shows have. They're very humble, and they're very, they have very strong personalities. They're still leads, but they tend to use that for good. We had a lot of fun. I don't think I have any specific stories about those guys. They're just a lot of fun to work with. That's a fun, easy set to be on.
We kind of already guessed that, but it's always nice to hear. Nice to get confirmation.
Yeah.
Yes. So Shane follows Michael to the cemetery because why wouldn't she? And and of course, then we get that emotional scene of seeing your character read the letter, dealing with the fact that, not only was his wife raped, but he accused her of cheating right before she died and then left. And then he vows to kill the rapist.
Yeah. It's dark, man. Michael's angry and sad.
Yeah, and so Shane brings that information to the team and begins her hacking, because again, why wouldn't she? And they learn that the man who assaulted Melissa, I think his first name was Carl Brackener, is possibly going to be released. He's got another appeal on the way, and if it's granted, he could get released. And so they begin to think, well, now we have a moral responsibility to do something about this. And of course,
there's
Oliver
always
is very uncomfortable.
There's always Norman's way of handling things. What if he couldn't walk? I have a cousin, Dad. Norman.
Norman has a cousin for everything.
Norman has a cousin for everything.
For any situation. It's like a Hallmark card. For any situation, there's a cousin and a card.
Well, and I think Michael's line in the courtroom sums it all perfectly. Who are you people? That's a great line, and it's delivered perfectly because they are so quirky, and
they're so quirky,
and they are a ragtag band, and they're the newly formed team of the Postables. Just who are you people?
And I mean, they come up to him like one by one too. It's not like this band of people just swarm this poor man. And it's like Rita's over there like,
yeah,
hi, can I sit here? Oh no, okay, I'm just gonna sit over here. And then you have Shane with all her knowledge just pokes her head out of nowhere. And then Oliver comes up. So well done.
The leader of the band.
Are we up to the point where I sneak into the courtroom? Do you guys want to hear that story?
Yes.
Oh yes. Let's go.
So sneaking into the courtroom, we had to figure out a way for me to get past the metal detector.
Right.
Because I had a gun in my suitcase.
Right.
So the way we did it was I pretended that I was on a phone call about a client, and I'm saying, it's Hertha Lewis in Thompson, North Dakota. Yeah, Hertha, Herth. And as I'm saying all this, I pull the, I kind of slide my suitcase around the other side and give it to the security guy to just let me through because he knows me because I'm the DA. And the funny thing about it was, Scott said, "Okay, that's great, but I don't think you can say Hertha Lewis." And because we don't know who she is, and if she gets, I said, "I promise you, she won't get angry." Hertha Lewis.
It was a real person.
Hertha Lewis is my grandmother.
Oh, I love it.
And I wanted to, so that was like, I always try to. I did another one on at another show where I had to pretend I was talking about somebody, and I put my dad's mom in. That was my mom's mom, Hertha Lewis. And then my dad's mom is Agnes Edwards. And neither of them are with us anymore, but I know my parents are watching every episode. So I do it and I don't tell them. I do it and I never tell them until, and then I know if they've watched the episode or not. Because they'll call me and they'll be like, "Oh, you put grandma in there?" Yeah.
That's classic.
Yeah.
Nice little cameo over there.
Yeah. Try to throw them in there.
That's great. Yes. And so your character is able to sneak into the courtroom with his gun.
Yep.
And as I think Kaycee talked about, they all just sort of surround him and they lovingly help the lawyer with his arguments. Rita and Shane provided some facts on the court cases.
But I love that moment with Shane, because she says, if nobody's going to take, this judge seriously, who's going to take this judge, or here, if nobody's going to take that ruling from, I can't remember what year it was, who's going to,
1898.
listen, 1898. Thank you. Hope that was a trivia question.
That was not a trivia, but good job.
Okay.
Thank you.
But who is going to listen to this judge's, rulings, 40, 50, 20 years from now? And I was like, wow, that's deep. It's very deep.
Good point.
And it's very true,
Absolutely. In the courtroom, Oliver is able to convince Michael to trade his briefcase for a packet of papers that contains important medical information about his daughter. We're never really given what that information is, at least at that point. But we do get the good news that the judge decides to uphold the jury's original verdict. And so Brackner will remain in prison. He will not be released. So we do get that good news.
So I have a question here for Layne. Do you think that do you think he inherently knew it was the right thing to do to trade in the paper or trade in the briefcase for the papers? Or do you think he didn't want to? But he was curious. Like, what do you think his feelings were in that moment? Because, these are 4 strangers that are approaching him right in the middle of a court case.
Well, I'd have to watch the episode again to know exactly what the lines were and what Oliver said to him. But if he thought it was anything to do with his daughter, then I think he would have automatically. There would have been no. I think there would have been no question in his mind that he would do it. Mm-hmm. I definitely think he wanted revenge. Yeah, I think he wanted 12 years to be answered for. But I also and for the sexual assault of his wife to be answered for. Mm-hmm. But I think the most important thing to Michael by far was his relationship with his daughter. And if there was any kind of if it had anything to if the medical papers had anything to do with his daughter, and he knew that, then he would have wanted to see them. That would have been the most important thing to him at that point.
Oliver does implicate the daughter, and then he says, "Please, you have to believe me. This is life or death."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
no question in his mind at that point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he gets that information, and then we get to the jail scene where Michael visits Brackner in prison.
Which took a lot of guts.
That was quite a challenging scene.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's very interesting because we have a very complete 360 of emotions from Michael. He's was vengeful and I want to kill him. And then in this scene, we see him much different. He doesn't approach him with that anger. there's almost like a humility about him now. Like it's for his daughter now, so obviously that's different. But kind of like we talked about earlier, there's this kind of overarching theme of redemption versus revenge, and we see that in this moment of that ability for Carl Brackner to have a little bit of redemption and being able to help Abby, who's his daughter, out there in that scene.
Yeah, and him finding out about her for the first time was probably. I mean, I thought Aaron Pearl was phenomenal in that.
Oh, he does an amazing job of being evil.
Great.
I was like, oh my gosh, his eyes! I can't look.
Well, he's an evil guy. No, he's not. He is. He's really great. But yeah, the challenge to that scene was I think that Michael had to have a serial rapist's kidney. How do you go and ask somebody like that for their kidney? And that was I think his whole, if he came in hot, even the least bit hot, then he's not getting anywhere with that guy. So he had to come in with humility and go about getting it that way. And a little bit more,
That's what I got from your performance, is there was a very big sense of desperation. Like, I better play nice because I need something and I need it badly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
It was really important. And again, the writing was really connected. Pictures of Abby and the pictures of Abby and Kimberly. I mean, those were just the way it was all set up. Scott, God, I mean, I can't stress enough how much it matters to be given a safe space to be able to risk that kind of vulnerability and emotion, and have that given to you, and have the support and be able to work in that kind of an environment. It was just phenomenal. It's the most. I've told Scott this. I did a project with him last year, and I've told him that this was my favorite job as far as the relationship with my director, the collaboration and the trust that he had for us and that we had for him. And then he's an unbelievably professional and technically sound director, but he's just so incredibly kind and gentle and warm. And it's not normal. There's definitely kindness, and there's definitely directors they're rarely bad to work with. They're rarely jerks. That's not with the stuff that I do. I mean, I'm sure when you get into Hollywood and some of the egos of really huge studio productions, it can be horrible. But with the stuff that we do, most of our directors are great. But Scott's got this level of dedication and an enormous generosity of spirit that quietly comes out of him, and that he yeah, and I don't know how to describe it. There's just such an unbelievable kindness there, and a willingness for him to be vulnerable around what he believes the scene is about and the work is about. So a lot of that stuff around peace and forgiveness and all of that came from him. He doesn't have an ego. He's never trying to be cool. It's like, what is going to serve the truth of this story the best? And that was always our focus and our goal. So in a scene like that, where there's so much at stake, being able to work within that kind of an environment and in those kinds of parameters, and just always feel safe for every take. Every take's going to be safe. Every take, he's going to do what he can to help us get there and to allow us to really take the risks that we need to take here. It was just an unbelievable experience. It was an unbelievable experience. It's one of my favorite acting experiences of my career. Truly.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Hey, I knew I wanted to audition.
I mean, What's that?
I knew I said I've auditioned a time or two for a Hallmark movie, and I'm like, now I'm even more motivated. I'm going. and I want to go. If I can't get any old job, I'm going for a Scott Smith one.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to work with.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I think the word you said, vulnerable, I think that's actually the perfect word for I kept thinking, like, I'm trying to, like, put this scene into words, and I think that's actually the right word. Like, that's the expression, you know, you portrayed for Michael, and even Oliver in the background, and Eric Mabius, you just see that, like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, the emotions for both you and Eric in that scene are just, like, on point, and, like, being able to portray that just in your facial expressions.
Yeah.
I think
there's so much at stake.
I think even Aaron Pearl showed the first bit of vulnerability that a serial rapist can show. Yeah. But it was amazing right there how with one line and then how he said it, they made him human. She looks like my mother.
Yeah. And I said, is that a good thing?
Yeah. Yeah, and you're trying not to sob, and we're all sobbing for you.
So in that moment, and maybe it was, you know, something that the audience didn't see, but when do you think that Michael truly forgave Carl? Do you think it was, you know, off the scene before when he knew, or was it meaning Carl?
No, I think it's when he stands up and he says, she has blue eyes like you and she's tall. And he has to really actually look at it's the moment that he accepts that that's her dad. And he has to, because he's leaving.
Right.
And so he stands up and he says, she's tall like you and she has blue eyes. And then he kind of lists all the ways that that she's just like him.
Yeah.
And I think that's the moment.
Yeah.
At the it might not be, forgiveness is such a long road, you know. It might not be the moment that he forgives him completely, but it's the moment that he accepts for himself who he is in relation to his daughter. Right. It's the beginning of the road back, for sure.
Yeah.
I just have to put a point in for casting, because when you see the two pictures of the two actresses next to each other, I mean, there is a huge resemblance right there, but they don't look exactly alike, obviously, but it was the perfect casting because there was such a mix, but they still resembled each other. Yeah, it was incredible.
And not only that, but Stephanie Bennett and Kimberly Sestet are two of the best actresses in this country. They really, really, really are. They're, I could go on about a show here that Stephanie Bennett played a character in called Romeo Section for a season that was an unbelievably challenging character. And she's a rare talent. And I think we all know Kim Sestet in her roles from Hallmark. She is a phenomenal actress who brings a different kind of lead to Hallmark.
Yeah,
I agree.
She's a strong, no BS kind of a person, and that comes through in her work, and it's refreshing.
Yes, we love her.
Yeah,
true. I would love her to be a lead on more movies. So
you never know what can happen when all this is over.
That's right. It'll be a whole new world.
She won our Hallmarkies podcast Princess Award for Best Supporting Actress of 2019, and that was by a vote. We put the polls out, and because she was nominated, and
that's great.
She won.
I love that.
We all love her. We love her.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so that after that scene, we see Michael. We don't really hear it, but we know he tells Abby that, you know, they've some of the story at least, and she is able to get her kidney and be saved. And then we end up back with the Postables, who are getting ready to be honored for their great achievement. And we have Norman walking in, like dressed up like 007. His glasses. his little line, shaken, not stirred, for an Arnold Palmer.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that line. I remember thinking that's a great line. Yeah.
Okay, I don't drink, so I know nothing about alcohol. So what's an Arnold Palmer?
It's not
Coca-Cola
alcohol.
and lemonade.
Actually, I think it's tea and lemonade. Tea and lemonade.
Okay, it's tea and you
But
know
yeah.
what? You're
Yeah.
right. It's iced tea and lemonade. It's
Oh,
iced
I
tea
don't
and
drink.
lemonade.
I don't drink
You're
tea
right.
either, so that's why I didn't know that. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, it's not alcohol, which is why it's funny.
Non-alcoholic. It's a kid's drink. It's like a Shirley Temple, but for boys.
Now that I have had. I have had many Shirley Temples, and I love them.
It's a perfect drink for him. Perfect drink.
Yes.
Oh my! Now that's even funnier. That line is even funnier now. Oh my gosh!
Yes. So they are all there to be honored, but what they do not know is that they all get bestowed the Dark of Night Awards, which is like the Super Bowl ring of the post office. It's the greatest honor that they can have, and it's an incredibly big deal for Oliver. And that is where we end on that episode with that award.
And Shane's eyes never leave Oliver. The moment that she hears Dark of Night, her eyes immediately go to Oliver, and her eyes don't leave him because she knows just how much this means to him.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a little foreshadowing for possibly where their relationship's going to go down the
Oh
road.
yeah.
Oh yeah! Bow, bow. They're gonna get married.
It just takes forever and a day.
Yeah.
And it's
It
interesting.
has to. That tension's got to be there as long as possible.
That's true.
It's got to take place.
It just hit me. I think it's really funny that you're or in this episode where they first get the Dark Knight Awards, and then when you come back as Kimsicle, it's an episode that revolves around Dark Knight Awards again, and they just like hit me.
my
And
gosh.
it's really interesting. So,
Yeah.
Martha, did you plan that? We need to know.
She didn't. I'll tell you how I know that, just to give you a little foreshadowing for that 1 in a Million episode. I wasn't the original Kimsicle.
Whoa.
Whoa. Okay.
Mind
That's
blown.
all I'm going to say about that. We can talk more about that. We can talk more about that when we go through that episode. But
You hear that, Postables? He's coming back. This just in.
All right.
Oh
Does
man,
anyone
my
have-
mind is blown. My mind is
mind blown. I blew your mind. That's great. I love blowing minds.
My Hardy mind has been blown, and now my Postable mind has been blown.
Amazing.
My Hardy mind was blown by Andrew Walker, and now my Postable mind has been blown by Layne Edwards. So
How did Andrew Walker blow your Hardy mind?
he told me that it was down to him and Daniel Lissing for Jack.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, and I went, oh, I had no idea. I had a very genuine reaction on the podcast.
Yeah.
We'll just say that.
Visceral.
I think I'm really bad at recognizing people on screen, especially if they do the double thing. So it took me a little bit to realize that you played both Michael and Kimsicle.
They're so different. They
And
were so
yeah.
even wardrobe wise,
Mm-hmm.
hair wise. They're just they're such completely different characters. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why I got to do it. I think that was what it was it had been so long that I think a lot of people probably wouldn't have remembered. So I wouldn't feel too bad.
Well, you're in good company because Amelia Ullerup, she played 2 different roles on the series.
Oh, she
So-
didn't just play Dale?
What was it?
No.
No, she didn't just play Dale. She was in the Soulmates episode.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and she played the love interest in the letter story.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, but
then-
again, it was different hair color. I didn't recognize
yeah,
it.
it took us all a while to recognize her because the characters are so different, and they dyed her hair differently, and they did the makeup differently. So yeah, it took us all a while. So. Oh my goodness.
Right. Any last thoughts or impressions before we end with our trivia?
Nope, let's go.
Layne's warming up for the trivia.
Woo.
All right.
Okay, so Jess, I don't know, because Layne's he hasn't seen the episode in a while. So when you ask the trivia, should we give him first crack before Kaycee and I try to jump in?
Sure.
Well, that's a good idea. I don't have to buzz. Okay, that's good. I like that. I'll take it.
You
I
know,
feel like these are kind of
take
harder
the
ones.
handicap. I
It's
don't mind.
hard to find trivia for this
we
one.
have a celebrity in our midst, so we should give
We'll honor that.
I just have to. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to try to remember. Okay, go. I'm ready.
All right. 4 questions.
Okay.
All right. First one. What is the name of Michael's best friend / Michelle's ex-boyfriend?
Barry.
Right. Oh, very nice.
Played by
Off to a
Giles
great
Payton.
start.
Giles Panton.
Phantom, dang it! I knew that.
Half point for Cammy.
Yeah. Half a point.
Half point.
Quarantine brain. I blame it.
All right. Number 2. What year did Melissa die?
I'm not even going to guess because I don't want to take the right answer out of one of your hands with luck. So I don't know.
All right, 3, 2, 1. 2004.
2003.
Cammy's right. 2004.
Oh,
Very close. Okay.
One off.
so
One off.
Yeah, you guys are doing good. I thought these were going to be hard ones.
Sweetie,
They are. We're just
when
really
you-
smart.
when you and I were Jess and I watched the episode together, we put our phones on Messenger and then pushed play at the exact same time. This is how we entertain ourselves during quarantine.
I love it. That's great. That's awesome.
But at one point we said, "Oh, pause for a second," and I wrote down the dates. Like, she was born this date, she died this date,
Why
because
you had
this
me
was coming.
pause.
I knew you were going to ask that, so I wrote it
Be
down.
ready for 1 in a million. I'll tell you that right now.
He's going to comb through that with a fine-tooth comb.
I don't know.
All right. Question 3. What type of gun did Michael have?
A revolver.
And by type, I mean
A Magnum.
like,
A Magnum
the,
357.
like make and model. Make and model.
Magnum 357.
Nope.
I don't know. So Cammy, go ahead.
Sig Sauer P229.
Ding ding ding.
What? How do you know that? And what is
Wrote
that?
it down.
How does that come out in the?
It's so quick. It is so quick. When Shane's doing her whole hacking thing, she's just, her fingers are flying, and she said he's going to kill him with the Sig Sauer he has registered in his name, and then Oliver in the courtroom says the P229. I know it, I just can't say it. The P229 in your briefcase, and I immediately went back and I wrote that in a little intro.
Holy. Oh man. Woo. Man, you are in some tough company here. This is
This might be the best trivia one we've had. Usually because I'm on the other end and I don't know anything. So,
Oh,
No, that's not
it's
true.
fun. It's fun when Kaycee or I are asking the questions.
all right. So it's 2-1 to 0. Is this the last question?
yes, but it has
No
multiple
offense,
answers,
Kaycee.
so an option
0.
for multiple points.
Ooh,
that was hard.
multiple answers,
Multiple.
multiple points.
Okay, here we go.
So
Bring
we,
it
brief-
on, baby.
we briefly talked about it, but not much detail. This is the episode where we get the name The Postables. Norman and Rita totally geek out and decide that they are going to call themselves The Postables. There are 4 other names that Norman is throwing out as they discuss. Name any of those 4 team
Any
names
of those
that
4?
Norman talks about. Mhm.
I remember this. I remember this scene, but I can't remember, and I'm not gonna guess because I don't want to take the right answer.
No,
away.
guess.
I can't.
Go for it.
I can't.
Yeah.
No.
Incredibles.
I was gonna say The Incredibles.
Mhm. That's one.
I don't remember any of the others.
Fantastic
Cammy.
Four. I don't know.
I didn't write down any.
The Amazings, the Incredibles, the I don't know.
I
can
wrote
see
down
it in my
I wrote
head.
Down I wrote down the swag that they wanted, but I didn't write down the names.
Guys, ready to hear them?
Yes.
All right, Layne, you were kind of trying to get there. I think A team. You just started to say A team, SEAL Team 6, and Impossible Missions Force.
Oh,
Or the other three.
Thank goodness none of those made it. Can you imagine the Twitter handle for those?
Oh my.
Hashtag SEAL Team 6. Or SEAL Team 4, because there's only 4 of them.
I think you should draw the line at capes.
Oh yeah.
That is one of my favorite
patches.
That is one of my favorite lines in the entire episode. I think you should draw the line at capes.
Kaycee, can we get Postables capes on our merch store?
Oh yes.
Oh,
is that an option?
That's not an option, but I can design little capes on the back of a shirt.
and then put the quote. I think you should draw the line at capes. That would be so fun. That would be so fun.
I'm on it.
We have a merch store, Layne.
Amazing. I love it. I love it.
Here's the plug for the merch store.
Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome job with that trivia. You guys nailed it. I thought those were going to be really hard, but Cammie apparently just knows when to write things down. She could read my mind now. So to end, Layne, do you have any social media you would like to share with our listeners?
You can always follow me on Layne_Edwards14 at Instagram, Layne Edwards on Twitter. And those are probably the two places to follow me. I don't really do Facebook very much. So that's probably it. I communicate a lot with Postables on Twitter.
Yes,
we notice and we appreciate that a lot.
What's that?
I said we notice that and we appreciate it.
The only thing I have to say about Twitter is if you follow me on Twitter, be prepared to learn a little bit about the Vancouver Canucks. Yeah. Because let's be real, that's the most important thing in my life.
Oh, absolutely. I still remember I was actually watching this episode. I was watching the Dark of Night episode. I was sick in bed. And I just said, you know what, that I am newly hit with how amazing this episode is. I'm just going to, be out there and tweet Layne Edwards and tell him how much I loved his performance. And I think 10 minutes later, you replied to me and said, thank you so much and get better. It's like, oh, thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, it's a pleasure to be able to communicate with people while they're watching you do what you do. It's kind of wonderful. So I like to do
really
that
is.
With our fans on Twitter.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Off postable stuff. I mean, I've really enjoyed everything I've seen you on Hallmark with your roles in The Gourmet Detective. That one had me a little shook because I was like, no, he's the bad guy.
That's the first bad guy I've been able to play in so long. I loved it.
Arlene!
It was so
fun.
good. It was so good. So good.
It's fun to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
But still, Arlene.
I know. Hey, a lot of sides to this person. A lot of sides.
As he's scratching his shirt. Very, very mysteriously.
And then playing the ex in A Perfect Bride 2 opposite Pascal.
We love that movie.
That was so fun.
I love Pascal.
Yes.
She's a real fun person to work with.
Oh, I'm sure.
But we love that movie, and so we've talked about it often, and we say how great you did, how great she did, how great the two of you did together, and how great Cavan's part was in it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it meshed so incredibly well.
Yes.
Nice.
And I think it was the Debbie Gibson movies, the two. Where you
Also
play
with
the husband.
Also with Pascal, yeah. And with Lauren McNamara, who played my daughter, who's a wonderfully talented young woman.
Yes.
She's coming up. She's had a lead recently in Aliens Ate My Homework, and she's just like taking off. She is going to be a Hallmark star. Mark my words.
Oh, good.
I believe it.
Actually,
yeah.
she might be a lot of things star, but she's definitely, I think, going to be a Hallmark star. She's a wonderful, wonderful actress and a really great person.
We thought it very fun that you went from Pascal's husband to Pascal's ex-fiance.
Ex-husband?
You know,
Right, I left her at the altar.
Yes.
shame on you.
What a jerk.
But I know we always look forward to seeing you in your upcoming roles and stuff, whatever that may be in the future. But we always take a look out because we know that it's going to be really good and really fun. So
Thanks. I love doing them.
yeah.
All right, Cami, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Cami Drama Girl, on Facebook, the Hooked Hardy Facebook page, and my blog is hookedhardy.com.
And Kaycee, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Hallmark My Words.
All right, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jess BSW blog, or check out my website, beneathstillwaters.com. And you can follow the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod or Hallmarkies Podcast across all social media platforms, including iTunes and YouTube. If you are listening on iTunes, please leave us your reviews and ratings. And if you're listening or watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.
And that's where it's fun.
That's true. That's where you can see our faces. And check out the merch store, which we talked about. We have lots of specific postables, products, and designs. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And thank you, Layne, for joining us. I know the postables are going to be so glad to see you on here. And be prepared for the tweeting storm.
Thanks so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I think we talked one other time, and we ended up we're talked about going to the Olive Garden to do this next. The last time we all talked, but this was just as much fun.
That's awesome.
Well, if you can't do Olive Garden, what better way?
Right?
Yeah, especially during these times.
Yes.
Yeah, Texas, Florida to Indianapolis, you're fine, but Texas and Florida to Canada for dinner, that's one expensive meal. You know?
That's an expensive podcast.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time for
Stay healthy, everyone. Stay safe. Take care of each other.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.